Welcome back to Library Chess YouTube channel. Today's class will be learning how to make this elegant structured detail on a dress. It's very beautiful and it's very simple to make. Just helps to transform a simple dress. If this is something you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so to do this, I'll be cutting directly on my fabric and then I'm putting my fabric on bias. You can also cut it in a straight form, but if cutting it on bias makes your fabric open up more, so you can see how it's just a bit stretchy on bias. Okay, so that's why I'm putting my fabric on bias, but if you don't have enough fabric, you can just cut it on straight form. And then you need the measurement of your design. That's where your design is going around. So I'm just going to make mine 40 inches because I want to try to make as much design as possible. But if you have a specific design you're going for, you need to take your tape measure and just take it round where that design is going to. And then for the width of my design, I'll make it 5 inches including allowance. So by the time I turn it on both sides, it's going to give me, I'll use half inch to turn it on both sides, and I'll be left with around 4 inches, which is fine for me. This is totally up to you also. So now, after folding your fabric on bias means that you're just folding it almost like a triangular form. You can see how I'm folding it. So after putting my fabric on bias like this, I'm going to make sure that I have up to the 40 inches that I need, and then I'm going to be cutting my fabric and lining together. So you can see I'm putting on fold by 2, so I don't have enough. You can see that I shifted my fabric forward more, and now I have up to 40 inches. So after having my 40 inches, the next thing I'm going to do now is from this center fold area, I'm going to measure, I'm going to measure my 5 inches. Okay, so I'll take that 5 inches mark as strategic point so that I can get a straight line, and then I'm going to take my straight ruler and make this into a straight line. I've made this into a straight line, as you can see. Now I'm going to take my scissors and cut out what I have. Okay, so now I've cut this out. You can see the edges of the two. So like I said, I folded it into two to cut out my main fabric and my lining together. So now I'm going to slash it open here, and then I'll have them separate. So the next thing now is to take my interface. You can use any interface of your choice. I'm using a bridal satin for this project, so I need the interface to give it more structure. So now I'm going to go ahead now and gum my interface with this using my iron. Then we'll bring it back to bone it. Okay, so now I have them separately. Now I'll take it to my ironing table to add my interface to this. Okay, so I've gone ahead to add my interface to this, as we can see. So now I'm just going to pick one of it, which is going to be my lining, and then I'm going to mark out my seam allowance that I'm going to use to sew it all around. In my case, I'm using half an inch seam allowance. You can use whatever seam allowance that you want. So now you can actually eyeball this, but I'm just marking it out for the sake of this tutorial. So now, as you can see, I'm marking half an inch all around, and then I'm going to make it into a straight line so that my seam allowance will be pronounced, and then my boning is not going to enter into my seam allowance. So I've marked it on the upper part. I'm repeating the same for the lower part, and then I'm going to also do this for the sides. Okay, so okay, so I've added my allowances now. So the next thing now is to add my boning to this. So for this tutorial, I'll be working with this regular boning, and you can sew on it, but you can also work with your plastic boning. So if you're working with your plastic boning, what you just need to do is turn your fabric and your lining, then after turning it, you sew on it to create your boning channels, and then you stick your plastic boning on it. But I'm going to be working with this boning that I can sew on. So what I'm going to do now is to start sewing on it. So you can add as many boning lines as possible. depending on how structured you want this to be, because it's the boning that's going to give it that standing effect that you're looking for. Okay, so now I have my boning now, and then I'll start to add my boning to this. So I can add like 4 to 5 lines depending on what my space can take. And then you should be mindful of your seam allowance. So you just place your boning like this, and then you sew it on both sides. Like I said, it's sewable. So on these points where you don't have your dotted lines, that's where you sew on. So now I'll go over to my machine now and start to add my boning to this. So you just need to sew it down. So now you just need to place it on it like this, and then you sew on it. So you sew it straight. So after sewing it down on this side, you can see that this is still up, so you go over now and sew on the other side also. So you add as many channels, as many bone as possible. And then you have to use a matching color of thread, because of course it's going to show on the other side. So make sure your color of thread is matching the fabric you're working with. Okay, so I've gone ahead to add more bonies to this. I think I have around 6 here, so I'll be stopping it here. You can add them as close together as possible, and then you can also add at the edges only, but because I really want this to be firm and standing, that was why I added it this much. So after adding it, all I just need to do is to take my main fabric, place them against each other, right side facing right side, and then I'm going to sew on it so that I can turn it out. So now I've done this, so what I'm going to do next is to place my lining and then my main fabric on top of each other, and then I'm going to sew around it. Then I'm going to leave a little space to turn this out. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew it round, as you can see, and then the next thing now is to turn it out. So when you're turning this, I advise that you had enough space for you to turn it, because of the boning is now very strong, so it may be a bit difficult to turn, but it's possible. So I'm just going to go over now and turn it bit by bit. Okay, so now especially for beginners who may find it very difficult to turn, so what you can do is you just sew it in bits. You don't sew too much, and then turn out your edges and make sure your edges are sharp like this. So after turning it, you have the other side completely opened like this. You can see how open it is. Then you take your seam allowance in, and then you decide to iron it. So after ironing it down, you can just turn it to the wrong side, the lining part, and then where you have your last seam, you can just stitch on your last seam here. But if you don't want any seam to be showing on your right fabric, what you can do is just take your hemming glue, and then you place it in between your two seam allowances like this, and then you use your iron to gum it. So that's going to hold this for you, and then you don't have to sew on it. So you can actually finish it whichever way you want. So it's easier this way to turn it. Then you can see I've added my hemming glue to this, so I just need to take it together now and iron it so that the glue can melt, and then gum my main fabric and lining together. So after this, you need to iron it really flat. So you can see how I've ironed this. This is the lining that has the seams, and this is the main fabric. Okay, so now the next thing now is to fix it to wherever it is you want to fix this to. So I'll take it to the mannequin so that I can show us different styles that we can do with this. Okay, so now depending on the style you're going for, you can either take it from your waist area now, and then take it all around like this, and then you tack it to the back, or you place it on your shoulder area for it to have this standing effect like this. And then you can do another one that comes around the sleeve to form a mini sleeve for you, or you can just, like what we have in the thumbnail, you can just make it come from the upper part here. The boning that you have is encased in it is just going to make it form whatever it is that you want it to form for you. So now you can just take it from here, pin it, and then take it through your arm, your underbust, and then through your arm, and then back to your center back. So I'm just going to pin this now so that we can see what this looks like. Okay, so I just pinned this down. I can see the effects that this is giving me. So on the hem here, you can add trimming or whatever it is. So now this depends on how creative you are and the style you are looking to get. You can style it anyhow you want. I hope you enjoyed making this tutorial with me. If you enjoyed this, let us know in the comment section. Share our videos to your friends, like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.